Well, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, the summer edition. It's really interesting for me to think back that we've interviewed more than 8,000 leaders and entrepreneurs over the last 7 or so, 8 years. And we had previous radio shows and different editions prior to that. Trying to keep the public informed on what's going on. And I personally find the next subject to be very important because a lot of things are changing with our taxes, estate laws in the next year. So I want to welcome back a returning guest, Melissa Sidney, partner at Tarlow, Breed, Hart and Rodgers, and also the chair of the Trusts and Estates Group at Tarlow, Breed and Rodgers. Welcome back, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I hope I didn't, with my introduction, push you in a direction. Not that I think I could ever push you in a direction that you don't want to go, but it is a big year. And, I have a project. I'm just going to tee you up a little bit. I have a project where a very successful family told me I had to do all the work, coordinate with the law firm and coordinate with every family member and have it all done by the beginning of April next year.
That is good advice.
And they said everything has to be done. You are the quarterback. It's sort of like the GC, but you work with everybody and you make sure we make that April 1st deadline.
That is great advice. So for those of your listeners who don't know, the estate tax rules are supposed to change at the end of 2025. Currently, federal estate tax rules allow each individual taxpayer an exemption amount of 13.61 million. And it's this strange number because it's indexed for inflation. So every year it's been going up a little bit. And what that means is that someone over the course of their lifetime and whatever is not used during their lifetime at death in 2024 can pass up to $13.61 million worth of assets free of any transfer taxes to the beneficiaries of their choosing. And at the end of next year, that amount is scheduled to be reduced by approximately 50%. So starting in 2026, that amount could be around $7 million. So for my clients who can afford to do that, I'm encouraging them to use the exemption amount before the sunset. And there may be potential changes with the presidential race that's happening later this year. However, I do not have a crystal ball, and I'm encouraging my clients to at least put the structures into place so that way we can see what happens with the election and there will not be the mad dash in December of next year.
Well, also, I'm gonna put a little different to us because I agree with you, and I think once something's not done, it may set something in stone for eternity or perpetuity with a family that people regret because there will be no sort of crawlback on this one, maybe. But I also wonder, do you find it different when you look at the age curve? Let's say 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, how people are reacting to this? Because in my work, organizational transitions, which relates to mostly families, I'm seeing a lot different behavior from baby boomers. There seems to be a lot of more pressure right now on baby boomers to think about things that they really don't want to think about, but they know curtain is starting to lower and they have to think about things. So I'm asking you about those sort of milestone marks. Do you notice a difference also?
That's a great question. And I will say I do notice a little bit of a difference. Obviously, a 35 and 40-year-old who has a lot of money is going to be thinking about things differently than someone in their 70s. A lot of my clients who are in their 30s and 40s, they're relatively young, they have young kids, and they're thinking, okay, I have a long runway ahead of me. I need to make sure I'm set before I think about my kids who may be 5, 6, 7 years old. Whereas for my clients who are baby boomers, they're starting to think more about transfer tax planning and taking advantage of the potentially changing tax rules. And as long as I've been practicing, the rules have been changing approximately every 5 years. There's no guarantee that that's going to continue to happen. But a 35-year-old, a 40-year-old 45-year-old or even 50-year-old is likely to have another bite at the apple. That is not the case for my clients who are older, or it may not be the case for my clients who are older. And as I said, I don't have a crystal ball. So I am encouraging my clients to take advantage of these rules while they can.
Well, I'm going to personalize it again to my clients and myself, being a baby boomer. And I had a conversation with, I'll be honest, with my son about a month and a half ago. And I said, if my wife and I live another 25 years, you'll be in your 60s before you see a lot of this stuff. And he looked shocked. He hadn't thought about that. And I said, so you need to plan your life also, assuming that I could stay alive. You can't plan on my death. You have to plan on me living. And that's another part where I say, you probably also need to speak, you need to meet with the whole family, correct? Or in pockets with families.
I recommend for clients who feel comfortable that they have family meetings where they start educating the next generation about the wealth that they'll be inheriting, and not necessarily dollar amounts, but introducing them to concepts like dynasty trusts, prenuptial agreements. The prenuptial agreement, I think, is a really important conversation. And I recommend that clients have those conversations before their child has even chosen a potential life partner. So that way, children know this is what people like us do, like what our family does. That, the expectation is we'll get a prenup. And if we wait until there's a potential partner, that partner could feel picked on because if the conversations never happened and now it's happening when that life partner is identified or identity is known, personalizes the situation a lot more. So I do recommend having those conversations earlier. And then also the concepts around trust, what it means. A lot of clients are also very philanthropic. So thinking family philanthropy and the values that you want to pass on to the next generation.
But in other words, there's a lot of change that people have to deal with, and people are resistant to change, and a lot of education, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And I had this discussion again with a client because I come at it from a different angle, where they said we want everything to be equal, and I said equal's not a great idea. Fairness is really what I want to talk about. Can you address that as well? Do you address that also as an estate attorney?
Yes, I address it all the time. And obviously, every client situation is different. So some client situations, equal may not make sense. Um, you know, I have one client that I'm thinking about in particular. They have a special needs daughter. It is unlikely that she will ever have children. And so they're setting aside enough for her that she can live on comfortably. She will never, ever have to worry about having her needs attended to during her lifetime. But they're not allocating the same level of assets to this special needs daughter as they are to their other children already have or they have their own children and will likely, those lines will continue on. Whereas this other daughter, they're setting aside several millions for her, but not the same level that they are for their other children.
And this is a hard process for parents because not all children understand or will ever understand what parents do. And it's
Correct.
it's it's a tough process to go through and emotionally for the parents, correct?
Correct. The situation I described, that one wasn't so difficult because the special needs child, even though she's in her late 30s, early 40s, she doesn't have the capacity to understand that there is this disparate treatment, but that's not true in every case. I have another situation that I'm dealing with right now. There are two siblings, and one sibling doesn't have the same needs that the other child has. And he also has mental health issues. So um, that plays into the estate plan as well. And it's not only about what each child is receiving as a dollar amount, but it's also the rights and powers that you're giving the children in the estate plan.
Well, this is all very interesting, and we thank Mark Furman for letting you come on to the show in addition to him. And we'd like you to continue to come on through 2024 as we get towards tax season so you can keep reminding people of what's happening and how people are dealing with these things. And I hope you're willing to do that. I know you've got a very busy schedule. But if somebody's interested in asking you about their particular situation, Melissa, how would they find you?
They can find me on the Tarlow Breed Hart and Rodgers website, or they can email me at msydney, MSYDNEY, at tbhr-law.com.
That's great. And remind everybody, you can also find Melissa, if you forget that, through the Radio Entrepreneurs Connections. And we will be back next week and after this with more stories.